constantly. And as you know, it's just we're chasing things all around the times. Ball fields, parks, we're gonna have a giant trail that we're gonna need to take care of soon. And so we just felt that it was more appropriate for the association of whoever's ultimately out there in the rail campus, which right now is just us. But ultimately, whoever it is that they work together, they have a contract with a hopefully a local provider that comes out and does all the maintenance to their common areas and things like that. The boulevard, there'll be a sign up that we're working on through the rail campus committee. They'll have control of that sign and how you have rules about how you get on the sign and all the things that go with it. So that element is critical. Once we get that, the city can put it on file, and then we can get closing completed and they can get constructing in June. So that's kind of the lay of the land.
Any questions? Did you want to add anything?
I would love to, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. Welcome.
Good evening. Again, I'm Amy Patterson with the Schooler Company. My colleague John Mesrick is here as well. We appreciate, so I really have not too much to say because Greg did a great job of summarizing it. We appreciate the continued support from this council and all the community partners that we've been working with over the last couple of months since we requested approval to purchase the land, and have worked through a lot of the necessary steps even from outside of this council's purview, perhaps with Jake and Greg and Ed's support around surveys and permits. We received the Alta survey today, which was one of the last survey components, and the land disturbance permit with Jake's support allows Gray, our design build firm, to prepare to mobilize to site. So as Greg mentioned, our land purchase agreement is predicated on the site readiness MOU in front of you today. As Greg said, the support that you have offered us to help mitigate some of the costs for the soil remediation is very much appreciated. The second report that we secured from a geotechnical perspective unfortunately reiterated everything that the Terracon organization had told us around the soil conditions. And while the cost is right now probably exceeding about $700,000 for soil remediation, we appreciate the council's support for the funds that you identified to help us with that effort. The other items remaining for the land closure is the Property Owners Association document. Our goal is to close on the land and complete the purchase by the end of this month. So as I continue to remind myself, the end of May is next Friday, which is really hard to believe already, so that we can mobilize to site. And one of the reasons that that is so critical is that the foundation work cannot let me start again. If we can mobilize to site in June and begin the soil remediation work and all of the earthwork required to install the aggregate piers, and then begin to lay the foundation and the footings required ahead of next winter, we also continue to mitigate our overall cost perspective, but not jeopardize the timeline of our construction project. And our goal continues to be operational by August of 2020, and tremendous timeline between now and then. So appreciate your support of the MOU and the other items on the agenda. Really ask for your feedback and any support we can offer on the draft document for the Property Owners Association document in order to help clear that up by the end of next week.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions, of course, and again, really appreciate the support we've received along the way.
Any questions? Thank you again. Any other questions or comments from the council on item number 10? So I need a motion.
To approve the MOU?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Welcome back to call and we know the same
Item 11, consideration of an ordinance amending the electric rates establishing a large power economic development rate. Greg, do you want to add anything then?
No, I'll just note this is a rate that falls under our large power rate, and so this is kind of an amended optional rate doesn't apply to anyone unless they have entered into the EDR agreement between the city, NPPD, and them as the customer. And we've never had anyone before, and so we don't have a rate established that if we got into that with anyone else, school or any other projects that come in the future, this sets us up so at least we have a starting point. And this was reviewed, and we had some extensive conversations with NPPD still about this, but I think we're all good going forward, and we've done our analysis on our end. And so this, what you'll see likely is within the next 6 months to a year is that EDR agreement may come after we establish this. There's a timing that we want to hit perfectly on the nose, but this takes care of that. It won't affect any of our other current customers.
Any questions or comments? Well, I just like to introduce the ordinance.
I'll introduce.
All right. An ordinance to amend sections 237-3.1 through 237-3.13 of the municipal code to initiate an electric rate adjustment that will have a neutral impact to total system revenues generated by rates charged to customers for services from the electric distribution system of the city effective with the June 2019 billing, to provide for billing thereof, to repeal the original sections 237-3.1 through 237-3.13, to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2019-15, and the title is hereby approved. I need a motion to dispense with the statutory rule.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Sorry.
Voting in favor, Welkenbeck, Hanford, Holderman, Miller, Singleton, Smith, motion carried.
This is ordinance number 2019-15. Would anyone like to move that this ordinance be passed and adopted as read?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, again the question is, shall ordinance number 2019-15 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Welkenbeck, Holderman, Miller, Singleton, Smith, motion carried.
Next, item 12, consideration of an ordinance amending the water rates establishing an urban industrial service rate. Great.
Yes, this was a rate that we kind of created, Schooler, or the ultimate project that we'll have on site, will be our largest water user within the city. Very early on, we identified that we didn't have capacity issues, so capacity was not a concern to us, but due to the significant level of water and the price point at which we negotiated and offered with this economic development project almost a year ago, as you remember, we had created this urban industrial service rate, which basically is a really high-end user rate. They would be the only one that could qualify at this point because of the sheer nature of the amount of cubic foots they're going to use. And it is a tiered system. That's kind of a protection to us as the users. If we find out a project were to come in, not saying this one would, just any project that comes in that qualifies for this rate, if they way overestimated their water usage, and then we found out it was way lower, we would have a higher end on the cost usage versus just giving them one base level, 0.009 across the board, and then they use 1/4 of what we thought the revenue projections would be correct. And so by having the tiering, this hits the price point at which you negotiated for the usage, but at the same time protects the city, and so that's why it was designed that way, and as we offered it. But this is the one that dates back, again, to the ones that we negotiated, created, and discussed with you quite a while ago.
Any questions or comments on item number 12? Would someone like to introduce that ordinance?
I'll introduce.
An ordinance to amend section 390-1.26 of the municipal code to initiate a new industrial service rate charged to customers for service from the water system of the city effective with the June 2019 billing, to provide for billing thereof, to repeal section 390-1.26, to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2019-16, and the title is hereby approved. I need a motion to dispense with the statutory rule.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Miller, Seward, Schmidt, motion carried.
Again, this is ordinance number 2019-16. Would anyone like to move that this ordinance be passed and adopted as read?
I'll move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, again, the question is, shall ordinance number 2019-16 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your vote. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Miller, Seward, Schmidt, motion carried.
Item 13, consideration of an ordinance amending the large user sanitary sewer service rates. Greg?
Yes, this one actually is an amendment. We traditionally have had the residential rate and the general service rate, and then you've also had the large general service rate that no one has ever qualified for. And we talked about this when we initially started working on what we knew as Project Superior, that we would have to create some of these bio rates in regards to BODs. We call them TSSs, but in the ordinance it's just suspended solids, TCANs, FOGs, and make some considerations about those rates. We did an analysis and a study clear back last year when we were preparing these rates of similar sized communities across the state and the region, and went and looked at what they charged for these rates, and then set them and offered them accordingly to what you see here. And so those are in there. We note that if you're paying attention to Project Superior, we do not anticipate that they're going to hit with any of their discharge the fog limit, but we added that in and we discussed this with the property because it's a rate you should have. If you start having people come in that have these different bio loads and things like that within your wastewater system, you should have a rate out there for protection, and the number that we put in there, while maybe not affecting this project, is a number that we feel confident is right on the mark with what you see in the region. So we were confident with that. And so this is just an amendment, and it kind of fully establishes that large general service rate that we've always had floating out there, but we never really filled in. So,
Are there any questions on item 13? Or somebody to introduce the ordinance?
Oh, there it is.
An ordinance to amend sections 325-8.1 through 325-8.3 of the municipal code to large general service rates charged to customers for service from the sewer system of the city effective with the June 2019 billing, to provide for billing thereof, to repeal the original sections 325-8.1 through 325-8.3, to provide for a time when this ordinance shall take effect. The ordinance has been read by title and is designated as ordinance number 2019-17, and the title is hereby approved. I need a motion to dispense with the statutory rule.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Miller, Seward, Schmidt, motion carried.
Again, this is ordinance number 2019-17. Would anyone like to move that this ordinance be passed and adopted as read?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, again, the question is, shall ordinance number 2019-17 be finally passed and adopted? Please register your vote. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Miller, Singleton, Schmidt, motion carried.
This is also the last ordinance for this evening, so I need one final motion to make all the ordinances a part of the permanent record.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Wilkenbeck, Catholic, Coleman, Miller, Singleton, Schmidt, motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next, item 14, consideration of agreements with Nebraska Department of Transportation for improvements to the intersection of Highway 15 and Walker Road. Greg?
I'll just give a brief overview, and then we have Corey here with us tonight from NDOT, and so I don't want to steal his thunder. I want him to come up here since he made the trek down. But essentially what you're going to have here tonight is two agreements with one resolution to approve both. And these are agreements that talk about the improvements and what NDOT is going to require of us as a phasing for improvements at Highway 15, Walker Road, and ultimately our entry boulevard. And then also an agreement in regards to the grant program that we were awarded on. But I will say nothing more, and I'll let Corey come up and kind of talk about what we did.
Welcome. And just to clarify, we have items A and B here, but actually there's one resolution that will accomplish both A point. Go ahead, welcome.
I am Corey Donahue, Nebraska Department of Transportation. Did not expect to speak today, but I can do that.
He came all this way, I wanted
Alright.
to tell you, he's a fun guy.
I manage the Economic Opportunity Program for the NDOT. We've been working with the City of Seward, Jake, and Administrator Busher for a while on this project. They've been great to work with, excellent communication with, thank you guys for that. What we're talking about today is there's like you said, there's the two Economic Opportunity Program agreements. There's one between the Department of Transportation and the City of Seward that establishes kind of our relationship, how this is a city project to construct these turn lanes and relocate this intersection. It's a city project. The Economic Opportunity Program is a grant program that is going to reimburse up to $500,000 of that cost. There's also an agreement between the city and the company, in this case Schooler, just mainly reiterating what is said in the other agreement and making it known to the business. And then there's the phasing agreement, which you mentioned, which we worked with some representatives of the City of Seward to put in turn lanes that would be adequate for this project and for the foreseeable future. And then but staying outside of a bridge widening project that would have been a very expensive project if we were to get to that point. So we worked with them to a point where it would work for all of us. And this agreement establishes that this is all part of phase one. If the traffic were to get to a point where we require phase two and we need desirable lengths and we have to get into this bridge widening project, that'll come down the road, but we don't anticipate that with Schooler coming in. And we will monitor, NDOT will monitor the traffic on I think it's a 6-month basis, and notify the City of Seward when that we ever meet that requirement. So it's all within the agreements. I think Greg and I have talked over each of these agreements on the phone. I think we worked out every issue that we had in theory. So I'm basically here to answer any questions and help any way I can. So thank you.
Any questions or comments from the council?
What does the when and if look like?
When
I mean,
and
what,
if-
what, I mean, what kind of traffic are we talking about? I guess I don't have a clue, Schooler, what type of traffic you're expecting. You know, obviously it's an area that we wanna see growth in. What is, I mean, are you able to comment at all? I mean, what kind of traffic are we looking at that could create phase two?
In my experience, in talking with traffic and folks, we're not there with phase one with Schooler coming in, but we're not significantly far off. But it depends on what developments are coming in. If it's a lot of traffic coming in and out, like retail or a gas station or whatever, that's one thing. And if it's a manufacturing facility that is 10 jobs and a couple of trucks, it really depends. Other than that, I don't really know, and I'd have to check with our traffic department at where the threshold is. I think we're under the threshold of where NDOT would require phase two. I don't know how far it is from that. All the communication I've heard is that it could come quickly depending on the development that comes after these developments, but it could not come for a long time either. So I know that's not a good answer, but it's the best I can do. Sorry.
And again, Corey, it changes with time, correct? I mean, it's dependent on traffic on the highway, it's dependent upon a lot of things. The other one is that as part of this project, we're realigning the Rummery private entry. Remember, that's a private entry, not public entry. We don't own it, it's not right of way. But we're realigning that and giving them, and Jake's worked extensively with them down there to discuss this project and kind of prepare for that. But it gives them a permanent understanding of where their approach will be forever in the future, unless NDOT dictated something otherwise, where currently to do any sort of development on that property, you would not be for sure on where you would end up. Now, we're gonna establish all of those, everything's ready to go on that other side of the highway as well. And that's part of, because you'll see the approach and the improvements in the right of way on that eastern portion as you look through some of these things. And so a lot of that's in there, but Again, if Rummery went and decided to develop and then something happened, that would increase traffic in this intersection and have nothing to do with Rail Campus, so. You just kinda have to go with what you got.
Yeah, I listen to our traffic division, and what they say is what I say, so,
There you go.
yeah.
Good, John.
I can add if I may.
Go ahead. Yeah, you bet.
Great.
John Mestrick, Schooler Company. I think that if you think about, there's gonna be approximately 100 employees. They'll need to get in and out of this facility every day. That's probably the greatest traffic. I'm guessing truckload traffic is 5 per day of large trucks. And then service trucks to, maintenance or whatever like that. So I don't see us as being this giant traffic cork, but hopefully in the future, we help stimulate more traffic, but I don't think at the beginning it's going to be a big deal. I know that the turn lanes are really about safety, right? I mean, that's what the whole discussion's been about, and I appreciate your help on that, and the help with the Nebraska Department of Transportation, because that's important, so, thank you.
Yeah, and I know my question was a difficult question, but, I sit on our rail campus committee and we know what we hope to accomplish out there. We obviously don't know the timelines either, and so I guess my concern only comes from the tear up we're gonna be doing to do what we've gotta do, and it could be 2 years, it could be 12 years later, and we're gonna be tearing up again to widen the bridge. So that's why I was kinda curious if there's an idea of what counts look like. I mean, we were guessing on committee meetings about what's it gonna look like.
It kind of depends what goes down there too, not like a hotel or something, or a gas station.
I will say this, and I commend Corey and NDOT, and I remember, I don't think Jake fell out of his chair when we heard that they were gonna offer phasing, but it had to be pretty close. I was in the room when they said it, and there was a lot of engineers in that room. I couldn't believe, Jake and I walked out and he goes, I can't believe they're gonna let you phase that. And it really shows, the commitment by the state of Nebraska and the leadership at NDOT, the state of Nebraska, and Corey's work on this, that they want to put economic development, the development of our state out in the forefront and be here to work with us in a safe and manageable way. They don't, want to go off the cuff and do crazy stuff, but they understand the implications of economic development and trying to do this so that you're not just getting beat over the head because you gotta pay $1 million for a bridge that we just put in like a year and a half ago. So those kind of things, I think that's really a testament to NDOT and their leadership and the direction that they're going. And so that's something we haven't seen in the past, but we're excited about it now.
Any other questions or comments on item 14? Again, we have 2 resolutions, so one resolution that covers both A and B. So the resolution would cover authorizing the mayor to enter into a phasing agreement with NTOT for phased improvements to the intersection of Highway 15 and Walker Road, and authorizing the mayor to enter into economic opportunity program agreement with NDOT. So this will be one resolution covering both of those.
I'll introduce a resolution.
Resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2019-16. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Megan Haver, welcome back, Council Coleman, Miller, Seward, Schmidt, motion carried.
Thank you. Item 15, consideration of a resolution waiving right-of-way construction fees for the calendar year 2019 in the Seward Rail campus. Greg?
As I mentioned in the MOU, this is a resolution that defines an approximately 147 acre tract. Again, this is the entire the acre property that we have the option on that we're working to close on, the Heath property and the current 30 acre, and basically says that any telecoms, fibers, telephone, whatever it may be, that is seeking a construction in the right-of-way permit from us, we will waive the fee for calendar year 2019, and that in hopes then we'll try to get people motivated to get out there while we have it ripped up, or we got roads going in and other utilities, while we're trenching in some of our electric utilities potentially. They'll get in there together save on cost, and that will expedite getting a number of providers in there quickly. And then that's gonna help us, I mean, not from Jonathan's perspective in promoting and trying to get people to be interested in lots by saying, we have all of these utilities, including fiber, telecom, cable, you name it, it's all there and ready to go. It makes it just that much more promotable.
Any questions or comments on 15?
I'll introduce resolution.
Okay. The resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2019-17. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
All in favor, welcome back, Capital Coleman, Miller, single split, Mr. Peck.
Item 6C, consideration of application to State of Nebraska Site and Building Development Fund grant program for a $500,000 grant for the SFD OPCO LLC Schooler project. Greg.
Yes, and I'm looking through your one in your packet right now, and it looks like it's not filled in. Nevertheless, I will read to you what's going to happen. Is the city of Seward is going to be the applicant. We must have grabbed a different one out of the folder on the online. The city of Seward is going to be the applicant, and we're going to apply to the state of Nebraska's Site and Building Development Fund grant, which technically on paper, if you understand how this program works, we've already been approved for, as long as we meet other qualifications. And so we are the applicant, and what we will do is we will apply on behalf of SFD OPCO, our friends at Schooler, Project Superior, whatever you want, whatever we feel like calling them today, and we will apply on their behalf. The state will provide us money to help with the development of their project. They're going to be categorized as an existing Nebraska business due to their current state. That was requested by the state. They're expanding in a new location and building a new facility. The approximate number of jobs being created is 95. The funding is going to go into all the SBDF funds will be used for site preparation. There's a significant amount of site preparation costs involved, and all the matching funds will be provided by SFD OPCO, and then also we included for purposes of the state. Since we did do TIF financing, it's an eligible expense under TIF, and so TIF is also a source of matching funds, but they didn't ask for us to break down TIF versus private versus site and building development fund, but they'll be using the SBDF dollars for site preparation. The other reason we're asking for that is we can provide like 1 or 2 receipts and not like this giant box full of receipts to the state, and the state appreciates that. So that's the activity that we'll do. And then we will just provide letters of commitment on behalf of the city for TIF, SFD OPCO for their private investment, and that will all show up and total out for the cost. And so essentially we're a pass-through, but this is a great opportunity for us, and very few communities are able to utilize these funds, and we're one of them with our great partners at Seward.
Any questions or comments on item number 16? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion to approve. Need a second. We have a motion and a second. Over here. Please register your votes. Please say the votes.
All in favor, welcome back, Capital Coleman, Miller, single split, Mr. Peck.
Item 17, consideration of a 1-year farm lease with John Heath for a 41-acre tract of land in the Seward Regional Rail Campus. Greg.
Pursuant to our acquisition of the Heath property, we had to divide out a number of those acres that we knew were not going to be farmable due to the substation, due to the work that's being done right now on the drainage area. And the remainder that was left over matched up, and it was approximately a 41-acre tract. Also, just due to our timing, usually when you're doing lease elements and stuff, you want to negotiate and take care of all of that in the fall. Correct, Kelly?
Right.
And so, it's true. The timing of our purchase and everything causes issues, and so we wanted to do this 1-year lease with John Heath to take care of the ground that we're not going to be disturbing, and then we'll see where we're at after construction next year, and then there may not be any more farming out in the rail campus at all, or we may need somebody to just take care of lots and keep the weeds down like we were doing last year and things. It's really dependent, but this was the most basically the quickest way for us to do it this late in the season and have somebody that's willing to do it. And so we thought that was most appropriate, so.
Any questions or comments on item 17?
Move to approve, please.
We have a motion,
Second.
a motion and a second, be ready for your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, welcome back, traffic calling in the listing include, motion carried.
Item number 18, consideration of recommendations on downtown revitalization grant, DTR,
Yep.
award amendments from the Seward LBA 40 DTR committee. We have items A, B, and C under 18. Greg?
Can I borrow your agenda here, so I can see what the A, B's, and C's are? So I'm gonna walk you through this. The first thing we're gonna do, is you have in there the most updated, DTR application review. If you wanna walk through every project and just get a quick update, I can do that very quickly. I will note, we've had one project that has been returned, and canceled. That is Scott Dinsloggy's, project at 310 North 5th Street. It was an electrical system code compliance one, $4,490 grant. That one has been returned. And so we will need to do something with those funds, and pursuant to my conversations with Trey at Send, his recommendation, due to a number of issues we've had, is to look to see if we had anybody else with current projects that need funds now because of whatever, and then from there, come up with another fallback project for any other funds that are returned, and then establish also deadlines so that we can manage our way out of this by the end of the calendar year. So the recommended one, first of all, if you would like me to run through these, I did run through all of these individually and discuss them with the LB 840 DTR committee. Ellen is the chair of it, and so if there's anything you would like me to hit on specifically, and then we can walk through the areas of concern and move into the first item. Any questions on the current status of any of them? None? We're just gonna go ahead and get through it then. All right, the recommendation by Trey was to see if we had anybody that had emergency needs for DTR funds that were currently in the project system. And we had learned from Suzanne Grigorovich that her project at 648 Seward Street ended up, once they got into it, finding out that it has significant cost due to uncovering the stucco wall. I mean, the building's right over here. As you've seen, it's been open for a month or so now. And what happened is due to the nature of kind of the state of that brick wall inside, when they finally removed the stucco and got into it, they found out it was old brick, really old mortar. Suzanne reconnected with a structural engineer, had them come back and reevaluate the building and its status, and had to, just throw it out real quick, what did you install, Suzanne?
We installed an interior shoring wall on basement, first floor, and second floor, and then we shut down our second floor operations to ensure that everything was safe.
Just for our purposes, Suzanne, what is your name and your address?
Suzanne Grigorovich, 77 Langworthy Lane, Seward, Nebraska.
Perfect. So, in preparation for, Suzanne was contemplating looking at CDBG reuse loan funds, as well as looking at any opportunities she could get to help fund this project, because her project went from what she was looking at with her application of a $7,250 project to do a little bit of update on the masonry outside and then fix her glass, is now approaching approximately $55,000.
57,000.
57,000. And so we brought her to LB 840 DTR committee and walked through all the specifics of her project. Essentially, if this isn't fixed, we have a significant issue over there. It really is something that it wasn't anticipated when Suzanne bought that property approximately a year ago. She did it with the best of intent. She has two businesses in there, one of which is her own personal business that is now not in operation on the second floor because it's not safe. She worked off the structural engineering reports that we had at the city, that we had required the prior owner to get, and based off of all of those elements, that's what she was working from. And when she got into this DTR project, found out the costs were significantly more. And so, without beating a dead horse, we went through all the numbers, talked about all of the elements involved in it, And at the end of the day, and I think Ellen can speak to the committee, but at the end of the day, the recommendation by the LBA 40 and DTR committee was to fund Suzanne's requested amount up to that much with any of the returned funds that come in. And then on top of that, move to the next tier project. But the reason we do this also is we had significant issues with SAM registration. We were required, rather than the contractors now, DED is requiring in the feds that the recipient, which in this case would be Suzanne, would be et cetera, which would be the other store, that they had to be the federal dollar recipient SAM registered. And Suzanne, by the kindness of her heart and SECDP, walked everybody through that process painstakingly. And I think we just got et cetera SAM registered within the last few months, 2 months or less.
Last month, within
Last
the
month.
last month, yeah.
It took them nearly a year because of complications in that process and all the other corporate documentation, everything that they needed. And so to try and award this to anybody else that's not even in the system, we risk the potential that we won't even get them registered on SAM by the time that this grant's done. And so by recommendation of Trey at SEN, he said, your best bet is to try and award these dollars that you get back to other projects where you have jumped all these hurdles already, and you know there's a need. And then the last, and we can walk into the other element of that later, but essentially, all of those were presented to the DTR LB 840 committee, and their recommendation was to fund Suzanne's project at the percentage match that she requested, which is she will cover 52% of her costs, and then the DTR will cover the rest. So that is, the request tonight is to consider that as the first one. So I'll answer questions on that.
Any questions or comments from the council? Do you want to take action on that now, or do you want to wait?
You need approval to amend? Is that what we
And
need?
how does that work?
Yes, it would be to amend Suzanne's application to award.
Would like to take that motion?
I make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Welcome back, Councilwoman Smith.
The next item is consideration of calendar deadlines. The recommendation of the LBA 40 DTR committee was to give 21 days from today's date. We'll provide notice tomorrow to our current project holders to get a notice to proceed. So that means they work through myself and Trey. We get our contractors lined up, and then I issue them a notice to proceed. 21 days after that, they need to get started. So they still have 42 days from tomorrow to start going on their projects. Now, most of these, all have had contractors they contacted. The hard part is some of them, as much as we beat it into their heads, Suzanne, Jonathan, myself, about the requirements of Davis-Bacon and all these other things that the federal restrictions are on these dollars, there were still that still didn't understand that. Or they went, well, I got that, but I want to go with this person. And we're like, no, you can't do that. And so we're trying to clean some of them up. We don't think it will be with the ones that are left. Ken Schmieding, some of those other ones, they're pretty simple projects. We've just got to kind of finish them through the process and hold their hand. Everybody is SAM registered now, et cetera is ready to go. They're just finishing up, most of them are just finishing up their contract with their contractors, and then they'll have notice to proceed. So we hope that won't be a big issue, but we want to incentivize them to get started and not drag their feet anymore. And then by that 42-day period, then you will know who goes, yeah, I'm not doing mine, I'm out. And then we take all the rest of that money, Suzanne gets her project funded, and everything left over goes into what will be the next step that we'll talk about.
And they still have a November deadline to have it completed?
Yes, we can have that extended, but there's certain thresholds you have to hit. And so we really need them to be going right now so that we can say, hey, we've been acting in good faith, we have notice proceeds, we have contractors on site, they're still just doing X, Y, or Z.
Any other questions on item 18B? If not, we entertain a motion.
I move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
All right, your last one, consideration DTR project utilizing remaining return funds for sidewalk improvements in the downtown revitalization area. The last time that was considered by the DTR LDA 40 committee was, what do you do with the funds after we fund Suzanne's project now and finish hers off? And we were gonna have, based on the numbers we're anticipating, we're gonna have a remainder right now, upwards of $20,000 potentially. It may be more if some of these other projects don't hit their deadlines. What do we do with that, and how do we utilize it in a timely fashion so that we can still try to hit that November deadline? And items that were considered, we basically can do any of the public projects. We don't think we wanna open the application process back up, because again, SAM registrations and contractors and getting contractors in, we don't think we're gonna hit the threshold. The city's already SAM registered, we meet all the restrictions, we can do a project now, and then we can green light it and be ready for when our deadline hits. We go out, we get our bids in, we do everything, and then we initiate the final project. We talked about doing awnings. That was one of the projects identified in the band shell. Jonathan finally we tracked down that number. It was $70,000, so that was kind of a big ticket item. You might have 35,000 sitting around, but we're not there now. Another one that was brought up by the committee, and they felt very strongly about it, was there's a significant amount of downtown sidewalk that needs replacement and repair, and quite a bit of TLC. And so they recommended that the city provide an evaluation of downtown sidewalks in the downtown revitalization area. We rate them, and then we just create a threshold and say, this one's the worst, all the way down until we use up all the money, and then we ship it all out, bid it out, and get it done. But they would like to see the city be the match and not go back and try to get the money from a business owner or property owner in downtown. That if this is a contribution, I think it was specifically said by members of the committee, that this is an ability for the city to give back to downtown and to the property owners and business owners, and kind of do a goodwill project that is in need. If you walk around downtown, there are some significant issues we're having with the concrete in downtown right now. And then the whole issue with the brick.
Any other questions or comments on item 18C? If not, will someone
Move to approve.
make a motion? We have a motion. We
Second.
have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Oh,
Seeing
wait,
none. Yeah, what?
I'm sorry,
Whoa.
should we be clear that it's the concrete, not the awnings? Are we?
The motion does say for a downtown sidewalk improvement
Okay.
program, but yes, it is for the concrete.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's all right. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, welcome back to Perfect Color and Miller, single commit motion carried.
Next item, number 19, consideration of resolution placing yield signs at the intersection of First Street and Langworthy Lane, directing traffic on First Street to yield before entering Langworthy Lane. Greg.
This was a request that came to the city from members of the public. Also, I think some council members were contacted about it. And I got wind of it to me, and I sent it to Jake. So Jake, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so, just did a pretty basic traffic study where just sit out there and watch traffic and mark, traffic movements.
How much are you paying
It's
again?
pretty sophisticated. I don't know.
One.
It was a nice day. It was a nice day.
Two.
So, basically the results, the majority of traffic is on Langworthy Lane. A lot of through traffic, a lot of westbound left-hand turn traffic onto, North First Street. North First Street traffic, majority turns right. So Langworthy, carries majority of the traffic. From a horizontal standpoint, this is a pretty straight up intersection, nothing weird going on there. But from a vertical standpoint, Langworthy, the crown of the road seems to kind of continue through this intersection. And First Street, basically the vertical profile of First Street is pretty abrupt, based on the crown of the road of Langworthy continuing through the intersection. So if you're on North First Street, you really do need to kind of slow down just to get through the intersection, safely without bottoming out, depending on what you're driving. So it made a lot of sense based on traffic counts, based on vertical profile to recommend yield signs on First Street at this intersection. There was also a fair amount of pedestrian traffic
on Langworthy Lane westbound. So it made a lot of sense, again, from that standpoint, to put yield signs on North Fourth Street.
Any questions or comments for Jake and his counting skills?
Well, we hired him.
Otherwise, if someone would like to, if you're in agreement, you're welcome to introduce the resolution.
I'll introduce the resolution.
All right, the resolution has been introduced and is designated as resolution number 2019-18. Would anyone like to move that this resolution be passed and adopted?
So moved.
Your motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Wayne Tyler, welcome back to the
All right. 20. City Administrator's brief report.
Right in the middle of budget process, we have met with almost all of the department heads last week in regards to budget. We're finishing up this week, and so we'll continue along that process. One question for you: how do you access the packet for the council members? Just briefly, this is just us kind of surveying. I did it tonight on my iPad, and I don't know if a lot of you see the thing that you see on the side if you go to the website, that you can click through the agenda. Does everybody access it? I see a lot of pads. Do you see that on there when you open it? Okay.
But when I watch it on my work computer, I do see it.
You know what I'm talking
I
about?
know what you're talking about,
Where
yeah.
it allows you to skip around within the agenda. and things like that.
Bookmarks in it.
But I don't
Yep.
see it on my city computer, and I don't see it on my phone.
And I don't see it on any of the tablets either. Okay, so that was something I just noted when I was sitting here and I ran into it, I didn't see it. And then the last one is just a quick update on, you know, I think you're all aware of the unfortunate situation with the Gonzalez family. A terrible tragedy for our community, and I know that Ed was very appreciative of all the support from the city, from the council, from all those of you that spoke to him, those that attended the funeral services for Willie. I want to commend our staff and their professionalism and support for Ed, stepping up and just covering things immediately and trying to do our best to help him out, you know, in this terrible, terrible situation. And so between Dan Hansen jumping in and covering all the building inspections, Jake helping out, Mel helping out, I covered planning and zoning the next night right after it happened for Ed, and we just tried to keep things moving and reassured him that there is nothing to worry about back here at the city, that he needs to take care of his obligations and support with his family. And so Ed did come back, was back at work today. We met with him and rebriefed him, and I think he was in, for all intents and purposes, good spirits, but we're going to continue to work to support him and help him out on behalf of the city. But a commendation to our staff to really take care of our own. And then just randomly, if you didn't know, also their San Antonio also works for us now as one of our summer laborers. It was supposed to start last Monday, and just this kind of ran into it. So, you know, if you see Ed around, just continue to help support him and his amazing family. And I know he really appreciated all you guys' support. So we'll leave it at that.
Any questions or comments? Somebody make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
The motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Wayne Tyler, welcome back to
Are there any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action? Seeing none at this time. Upcoming events. Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. Of course, we have the public works session upcoming next Tuesday. Would really appreciate the council's consideration to attend that. That'll be in the Civic Center basement. Really important topic for our community around affordable and workforce housing as we consider the growth, the natural growth of the community, but also the exciting growth of the schooler project. We really do want to support all levels of housing that we have throughout the community. And so it'll be a work session, so obviously no formal action will be taken, but we'll basically be learning the first hour, hearing from different experts in housing, and then the second hour will be split up into work groups, and there's multiple bodies that will be represented there. The council, planning commission, the CRA, the school board has been a great partner in this. Our board has been invited as well, the Housing Corporation and the Housing Authority. So really, it's a come-all to try to put everyone's head together to figure out how we can best work to provide additional affordable and workforce housing in our community. The other upcoming event, of course, is the 4th of July kickoff on Wednesday, June 5th, also at the Civic Center. Exciting time for our community as we are the 4th of July city for the state of Nebraska. So I would encourage you to consider participating and appreciate all of the 4th of July committee, Jessica and others who have made that committee something special. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
All right. And just, you know, they did move that off of the Tuesday, so we can attend if you would like. Is there anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display your votes.
I think I'm walking back here to call them and I feel on the street.
Thank you. What time is that?